Will Christmas come early for Chicago White Sox fans? We'll give you our predictions in just a moment. In baseball, Jared Hoyer is upset that he's not getting an extension going into next year. What did you think, pal? In preseason basketball, the Chicago Bulls are on their last legs as they gear for the 2024-2025 regular season, which starts next week. In baseball, the Dodgers are one victory away from the 2024 World Series, and the Yankees lose a heartbreaker last night in Cleveland. That and the Bears are off this week, but does not mean that the NFL takes a week off. We'll give you our Week 8 NFL picks as Second City Sports, the Friday edition, starts right now. Welcome to another hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown. You know what? That's me. You can follow yours truly on Twitter, X, and the IG as SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
Oh, pardon me. You follow my Lakina McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are located on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Look in and we'll get them up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given Lakina full powers to give you fools the bill and be a boot.
Toodles!
But before we begin, we must remind you, once the problems are fixed, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago live and in living color on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate the squad and give it the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV once the issues are fixed. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that Sports Folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku television, but you have some handheld devices laying around, be sure to go to the Roku, download the Google Play Store, download the Roku TV app, and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue once the issues are fixed. So no more excuses. Celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
Once the issues are fixed. And you know we will provide.
Gotta make that little disclaimer there. We got some.
Yes.
Excuse me. We got so much happening for you on Second City Sports this Friday. We got our old buddy, former WGN TV producer Larry Hawley, is back to talk with us about the latest happenings in Chicago sports and college football and a little bit of college hoops too. They're about to start their season in a couple of weeks as a championship coach has decided to call it quits. And of course, our girl Christine Manika from KXRB is back. No Bears game, no problem. We still got the Week 7 slate of the NFL, including a Super Bowl rematch coming up on Sunday. We'll have that and a whole lot more. I'm sure Christine will have some thoughts about stuff we're going to talk about right now as the White Sox came out on The Athletic on Wednesday, late Wednesday, going to afternoon, going into the evening. It turns out that are the White Sox on the move? Well, it looks like could it be the case? Well, Jerry Reinsdorf, the owner, has been in talk with a group led by former MLB pitcher Dave Stewart to perhaps maybe sell the team. Well, and look, I guess like this whole thing because remember Dave Stewart lives in Nashville, so if it does change hands, could the White Sox be on the move as well? So a lot going on here, a lot of stuff to kind of dissect. we've been dissecting for the last couple of days, and various pundits have their various opinions on it. So, Sid, you go first. What are your opinions on all this news that came out in the last couple of days?
In reading that article in the Athletic, I know folks in the Reinstar camp, according to that story, didn't want this to get out, but listening to various opinions over the last 48 hours or so, this may be a ploy for Jerry Reinstar to get what he wants from the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago, because we talked about it before, Lakina. Basically, it's been an issue for a year. I know that Reinstar went down to the state back in early May, and Pritzker told him, go back north and sit your you know what down. Here's the thing: the White Sox eventually will get a new stadium, but the Bears' priority comes first. And Kevin Warren, the Bears president, is finding that out right now. With Dave Stewart being involved in the potential of owning the baseball team, I know there was reports that he wanted to have his own own his own team in Nashville. It looks like that's not going to happen at this time. We all know that MLB wants to expand, but they have other issues that are on the table, including a possible salary cap, and the regional sports network situation we've gone over 1,000 times. That issue has yet to be resolved. But as far as the White Sox are concerned, would it be cool for Dave Stewart to own the White Sox? Of course, because you haven't had any Black American owners that are full majority owners in Major League Baseball, I don't believe. So that would be pretty cool. But whoever owns this team, whether it's Dave Stewart's group or somebody else, my issue is, will you promise the fans to keep this team in Chicago? Because if you leave Chicago, it will be bad for business. Whether you move it to Nashville or somewhere else, you're not going to recoup the benefits financial that you would here in Chicago. I know people talk about, well, the White Sox fans don't draw and this and that, and they're not consistent with the attendance. Chicago White Sox are just like any other team, including the team up north. When you win, they show up. When you don't, people don't show up. It is just that simple. It's not just a White Sox thing. It's a across the board sports thing. So we'll end it with facts. But my concern is, will whoever owns the team, whether it's Dave Stewart's group or somebody else, will the team stay in Chicago? And if that's so, where will they play? That's my only concern right now. But I think, as far as the Reinstar angle is concerned, I think this is another ploy to try to get money from the city and the state to get his new stadium. That's just my opinion.
Well, and and I've been kind of like that segment. I've been reading the articles and such, and I feel like this is kind of a ploy to try to get a stadium or a stadium from the city of Chicago. Well, here's the thing. Yeah, basically told you to go pound sand, in a very, our governor's pretty classy, Governor Pritzker. So he's going to tell you in a very snarky, nice way. That's how we do it here in Illinois. And most of the Midwest said, look, go pound sand, dude. And it's sort of one of those things where it's not good for business, like you said. I mean, you got the number 3 market in Chicago. What's Nashville? No shit, I know it's a fast-growing city, but it's like 18 or 19 or something like that. So you're going to go from the number 3 market all the way down to like the 18, 19th market. That's kind of a little bit backwards. But also, like you said, Sid, we know Dave Stewart's been trying to own a team for some time now. He actually was in the running to perhaps get a share of the Marlins in 2017. That didn't work. So he's been wanting to get into the ownership side of baseball for years. And I think it's sort of one of those things where I think they want to expand to Nashville. I mean, you got the Nashville Predators, of course, the hockey team. They want to expand beyond that. There's rumors that there might be an NBA team down there in the next few years. So, the thing is that they want to try to kind of capitalize on that growing metropolis that is Nashville, but trying to, it may be better for them to perhaps maybe move a team. But like you said, Sid, I mean, there's still fan base, but if you listen to some of the fan base, they're like, hey, you know what, call his bluff, call Jerry Reinstar's bluff for moving the team, because you're not going to get an arena or a stadium from the city. You're not going to do that. And sort of one of those days where it's just like, I think he wants to kind of, he's in his 80s now, he's in his advanced age, his kids don't want it. So I think he might be one of those days where he might want to take it off of somebody's hands, whether it's a local buying group or whether it's this group led by Mr. Stewart. It's sort of one of those days where there's still a lot of layers to be peeled here. And I think, look, if I want to go by like tiers on what the chances are of they either move or they get a new arena or a new owner or whatever, I would say like maybe them moving will be like the bottom of the list. But then again, the business of baseball changes so much, you just don't know.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Chicago City. Lakina here with you on another hashtag Football Friday episode as we discuss the potential selling of the Chicago White Sox. Lakina, I agree with you as far as the priorities of how this is going to go for the White Sox. Here's the thing about the Chicago White Sox. Even if Dave Stewart's group doesn't buy the White Sox from Jerry Rice, so of course there's a connection there with Dave Stewart and Tony La Russa. Of course, Tony La Russa managed Dave Stewart in the late 80s, early 90s, and Dave's playing days with the Oakland Athletics. And if Dave's Stewart's group, Smoke 34, doesn't buy the White Sox, as you mentioned, there's other local investors that will be interested in buying the team. Whoever buys the team is going to face the same problems. Well, they stay in the city, which I'm 9 times out of 10, I think is going to say because it's great for business. You have two teams in New York with the Mets and Yankees. You have two teams in Los Angeles with the Dodgers and the Angels, even though the Angels have worse issues than the White Sox right now, but that's a whole nother show. So it'll be bad business to not have your third market with just one team. That's just not going to work. But whoever buys the White Sox, they're going to face the same issues. Will they stay in the city? How long will they stay at their current location? Because remember, their lease is up in 2029. And so, and with that new stadium, especially when to put it in the South Loop at the Area 78 downtown, it's going to take a few years to get that started because they have no plumbing, no electricity, and obviously you got to build parking spots and other ventures that you want to attract people to come down to that area for that potential new site. So whoever buys the White Sox, whenever that is, it's going to be a while.
Yeah, and it's sort of like, as we close out on this topic, we'll talk more about this for our buddy Larry Hawley at the top, but it's kind of one of those things where you just don't you just don't know what the mindset is. Like it's sort of one of those sort of like, okay, yeah, it would be a bad business decision, but I mean, I think depending on who you ask, some White Sox fans might say, you know what, hey, call their bluff, let him take the team, sell it to Dave Stewart, and let him move it to Nashville. So so it's sort of like it's gonna be interesting how this goes. It's gonna be a while before if anything happens in this, because it's gonna kind of take a while, like you said, Sid. I mean, whoever ends up buying it, it's gonna take a minute to kind of get everything going. So, whatever happens, whatever the ultimate decision is, it's gonna be a while before anything happens. It's gonna be maybe within the next year or two, I think.
The Los Angeles Dodgers are one victory away from participating in the 2024 World Series, while on the flip side, the Yankees still have ways to go, especially after last night's dramatic loss to the Cleveland Guardians in the ALCS. That, and we'll preview Week 8 of the college football season. The final lineup will have a big game tomorrow in Champaign against the Michigan Wolverines, and a whole lot more. And will Deion Sanders' Colorado Buffaloes get back on track against Arizona? That and a whole lot more as Second City Sports continues right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CK80. Once again, at CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
From McKinnon on the Twitter, executes again, IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us as we get into the MLB playoffs and preview weekend of college football, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid. I know that the Foxes are a little bit happy right now as the Dodgers are one game away from clinching a spot in the World Series. They have a 3-1 lead over the New York Mets, and the Dodgers are kind of really dominated. They've it's been sort of like I guess it's kind of like how they've been able to do this. 10-2, they beat the Mets yesterday, and it's just a dominant performance by the Sox, the Dodgers pitching staff, and also to the hits. I mean, Mookie Betts had a couple of runs. Max Muncy hit a couple of runs as well. So and also the pitchers were really solid too, and I think that was kind of one concern, especially since Dave Roberts has been doing kind of like for the most part, has been doing sort of like a bullpen style kind of thing, and for so far it's been worth dividends. But when you have guys like Shohei Ohtani who hit a 3-1 home run to kind of set the first pitch, mind you, that sort of set the tone for that, and it was basically all Dodgers after that. And like I said, Yamamoto had a solid showing, 8 strikeouts, only 2 runs, but it was really, kind of out of it after that. But it was really the bullpen that got it going there, and so the Dodgers looking really good, up 3-1.
I know many LA fans were mad at Dave Roberts, accusing him of "quote unquote" throwing away Game 2 because of the bullpen session game, but he had a starting rotation the way he wanted to set up once they got to New York. Right now is paying dividends. You mentioned Yamamoto, who picked up the victory last night, 4 in the third innings with 8 strikeouts, and he gave up only 1 home run. He was masterful last night. You talk about Shohei Ohtani, and he was starting to get the criticism. He didn't talk to the media following Game 2, and some people were concerned about that. Excuse me, but he came out firing last night, and also too, Mookie Betts, as we said on the last couple of shows, he's been criticized ever since he's been in the Dodgers uniform for not performing in the playoffs. He's broken out of that shell now. You saw what he did the last 2 games of that San Diego series. You see what he's doing here in the Mets series. He had 4 RBI last night. But pay attention to this name. He was acquired in the trade deadline from the St. Louis Cardinals, and that was Tommy Edman. He's a utility guy, kind of like what Chris Taylor. He's still on the team now, but what Chris Taylor was a couple of years ago, he could play almost all positions except for first base. He had 3 RBI last night. So as we said on the last couple of shows, Shohei Ohtani sets the tone. And with Mookie Betts breaking out of his postseason slump, and he's starting to heat up now, with Shohei Ohtani lean the way at the top of that lineup, it trickles down to the rest of the guys. You see Mookie Betts coming through. You saw Freddie Freeman do well before these last couple of games. He's battling an injured ankle right now. And you see Tommy Edman and Max Muncy. And it starts to build momentum, and that's what we see with the Dodgers right now. The difference is in this series thus far is the Dodgers have taken advantage of with men on base. The New York Mets have not. And Jose Quintana, he could do what all he could, but after falling behind and giving up giving up a bunch of walks. I know the Dodgers set a record last night for 4 straight playoff games with 7 or more walks, and that's an MLB playoff record. The Mets, the Mets pitching has been going downhill ever since. And Quintana, he looked good in his last 2 starts, but he did not look good last night. But also, too, his offense didn't back him up either, and that's been the main difference in the series thus far.
Yeah, I think they've left. I think the Mets have 23 men on base the last those 3 games. So that's a huge difference if you want to try to hang on against the Dodgers. Now Jack Flaherty goes out to the bump later today at 4:08. It's on FS1. So I think if you're Flaherty, you want to try to kind of do like you did in game 1 and just sort of try to set the tone early. Kind of keep the. We'll see if Francisco Lindor can kind of get it going for the Mets, because they really need that. They don't want to end up being this series being over with by the time by like 7 o'clock tonight or something. So I think if you're the Mets, you want to try to get to Flaherty early, try to get Lindor going, get Pete Alonso going, and try to get those back end guys out too. Now if you're the Dodgers, you want to try to see if Flaherty can copy what he did in game 1, and perhaps maybe have Ohtani and Betts and the rest of that group kind of set the tone. The rest they can kind of they'll be celebrating out there in Citi Field.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Peter Alonso's name up and Francisco Lindor's name up, because both those guys haven't really shown up so far through the first 4 games of this NLCS. And let's not forget about Mark Vientos, the third baseman. He hit another home run last night. He has 4 home runs in this postseason run for the Mets. But I know Lindor is battling a back injury, and you have to give him credit for showing great courage of going out there playing every day. But he has to step up. Also, too, you mentioned Pete Alonso has to step up as well. So Pete Alonso delivered in that sweep, in that clinching game against the Milwaukee Brewers in a wild card series. He did carry it over a little bit to the next round, but his bat has disappeared so far in this NLCS. Also, too, Iglesias has to get it going. And also, too, I know Jack McNeil's been injured, but he's been in a part-time role. But also, too, Brandon Nimmo, he had a chance to put some runs on the board last night, and he popped out with men on base. So you have to have your supporting cast back up the superstars, but the superstars has to get them going first.
All right. Of course, like I said, we'll see if this is a game 5. That'll be on FS1 at 4:08 first pitch. So it'll be Jack Flaherty against David Peterson. So we'll see if the Mets can extend this series and send it back to Los Angeles, or will be the Dodgers be celebrating out there at Citi Field. So let's go to the ALCS in game 3. You thought that maybe the Yankees were going to take a 3-0 lead. Not so fast, says the Guardians. It all started with Jankenzie Noel. That call by Brian Anderson was top notch. I wish you had a clip of that. But you guys can check it out on YouTube. I'm sure the various pages as well. But Merry Christmas, like Mr. Christmas, I guess that's what they call him, something like that. He had a 2-run home run to tie the game, force it to extras, and of course David Fry, who a name we haven't talked about a lot this year, Sid. He had hit a 2-run home run that kind of got it going there, and sort of like only one player had hit a 2-out, 2-strike, 2-run go ahead home run in the 7th inning or later twice in this postseason career. Both that player is David Fry. I mean, he did it once before, and he had come within the last 8 days in games. He didn't even start because remember he did it against the Tigers a couple of games ago to clinch that series for them. So, definitely serendipitous there. But I think I don't look at this as sort of like, oh, the guys are over for the Yankees, but I think, the Guardians need to win more than the Yankees did, but I think the Yankees are smart that you probably should be clinching for the sweep right now. But it is what it is. I mean, you're coming back tonight. You kind of have to get that game out of your mind and perhaps maybe try to get back going there. Luis Gil, on the bump for the Yankees. So hopefully he can kind of, set the tone there, kind of get it going. Perhaps maybe make sure don't give the Guardians any more opportunities. And also left on base. We saw that with the Mets being an issue. It's also been an issue for the Yankees too. They've left I think 27, really like 18 guys on base yesterday. So that should not have gone to that point. So they got nobody but themselves away for that one too.
Yeah, you mentioned with the Guardians, they took advantage with the men on base last night, and that's how they won the ball game. Cleveland, we talked about them struggling, starting pitching wise all season long, doing it with patchwork, and they've been struggling so far in this series. But it's their bullpen, in particular their closer Emmanuel Clase. I believe he only given up 2 home runs the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
You saw him in one of those games in the last round against the Detroit Tigers. He had another meltdown last night. And I'm not saying he's not one of the best closers of the game. Sometimes these things happen, but you got to worry about his mental psyche right now as well. On the flip side for the Yankees, as we mentioned, Giancarlo Stanton has had a nice postseason. Aaron Judge has been struggling up to this point, but he got off the shenanigans with the home run last night. So hopefully you think that he's going to build momentum and get it going. So I'm with you, Lakina. The Yankees are going to win this series. It was the Guardians' time to win it last night. They finally took advantage of the missed opportunities that they had that they didn't have in the first 2 games of the series. The Yankees were making some mistakes with the pitches. Cleveland took advantage of them, and that's how they won last night. So I expect for us to talk about another AL title with the Yankees when we get back on Monday.
Gavin Wills be on the bump for the Guardians. We'll see if he can kind of get it going there. And like you said, I think you kind of have to sort of, got to forget about that game and just concentrate because you got to play, again today. This game will be on TBS, True TV, and on Max. So, let's check that out as well. Now, it's always, I got to say this real quick because before we go to college football, but the LCS being on cable and on streaming just seems like I know I saw Jimmy Traina had a big wrote about it. And I think he's right. I mean, if you're going to have these kinds of LCS games, look, I get it. It's 2024, blah, blah, blah. It's a way of future, whatever. But not having it, on like Fox or on, I'll just say like, AC, the main ABC network. I think it's just sort of like it does a service to a lot of people. And I know people want to, sell their prime time or their scripted or whatever or reality based type of stuff. But sports is a great reality show, and not having these LCS games, especially if it ends up being, especially we have 2 big markets and all 4 of these teams have history. It just doesn't seem it doesn't really seem fair to kind of like viewership. But I digress.
Yeah, I'll join in with you with the reminiscing back in the day train. Remember looking at all the games, at least the division series games were on ESPN before the contract was renewed in 2007. If you didn't get ESPN in your market, it was mandated that it would be put on a broadcast TV in your market if your team was in the playoffs. And of course, Fox and Fox had the exclusive rights in 2001 for the next few years, televising every game. But like you said, it's about these cable companies and now these streaming companies. Whoever puts up the most money, they get to control what goes over the air, how they want to do it. So, like you always say, welcome to sports viewing in 2024. Unfortunately, that's where we're in right now.
Sorry for going off track, but I kind of just want to go off a little bit of tangent about that.
I know you got to get off your chest. I know.
Yeah. You just got to do it. You're listening to Second City Sports on Chicago, Lakina McGee. So they brought with you, switch gears and talk a little college football. We're in week 8. We're about halfway through the season, and Vodtech with a nice win against Boston College, doubling up there. Some of the other games of note for tonight, you got Florida State and Duke. We'll see. Duke got their first loss of the season, so we'll see if they can get back on track as Florida State. Oregon and Purdue on Fox. I'm sure. Look, we all saw what happened with with the it's now the Dan Lanning rule with the 12 men on the field kind of thing with Oregon. But now could they face a letdown against Purdue? I'm sure they saw what Purdue almost did to Illinois at home. So you hope that maybe they can kind of avoid that letdown. You think?
I know Oregon's traveling cars cross country for this one, and the temperatures is going to be in the upper 50s around game time tonight. But I don't think the time difference will matter that much to Oregon. I don't know when they got in. I assume they got in on Wednesday to rush to Lafayette, and so I think that their body clock should be fine. But could this be a potential letdown? Yeah, but I don't see Oregon losing their edge. They won a close one against Ohio State last week at home. They're a good team. Purdue, like you said, they could be a dangerous dog because of what they did last week at Illinois, and everybody's betting against them. So I think the pressure is on Oregon tonight. I know they favored by 29.5 points. I think Purdue will put up a fight for a minute, but I think Oregon's going to pull it out at the end here. I don't think it's going to be as big as a blowout as people expect, but Purdue, they have nothing to lose. 1-5 overall, 0-3 in the Big Ten. I think they're going to play loose tonight because they know that everybody's watching them going to get stomped, but they're going to play nice and free, and I think they'll hang in there for a while.
Another big game on ESPN. This part of the doubleheader will be Oklahoma State and number 13 BYU. OK State's now 0-3. Of course, BYU's undefeated, so it's interesting to see what Mike Gundy and his guys do. I mean, they had the week off to kind of stew on those last couple of losses. So we'll see if they can kind of give BYU all they can handle. Should be interesting. One down there in Provo, Utah, and of course Fresno State, Nevada, on CBS Sports Network at 9:30. Saturday's games tomorrow. You got ABC 11 o'clock. You got number 8 Miami. No, 6 Miami, I should say. Fresh off a bye, they face Louisville, Virginia, and number 10 Clemson. That's going to be on the ACC network. And the big news Saturday game will feature Nebraska against undefeated Indiana.
Yeah, no, expected Indiana to be undefeated so far this season, 6-0 overall, as you mentioned, 3-0 in the Big Ten. Nebraska, one game behind them at 5-1, 2-1 in the Big Ten Conference. The Hoosiers quarterback Curtis Roke is having a nice year, 14 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Also to their star running back Justice Ellison, 409 rushing yards on the year, 6 receiving touchdowns. But watch out for their star wide receiver Elijah Sarrett, 29 receptions, 513 yards and 2 touchdowns so far this year. Look for him to have a big day against Nebraska.
This is going to be their best. This is probably the best opponent they've been facing all year. So Nebraska will probably give them a good test. We'll see how they do. Now the Battle of the Tigers on ESPN. You got Auburn and the Fighting Mike Bermans, as we call him here. NBC Chicago's NBC 5 Chicago's Mike Berman. Hey Mike, what's up? Yeah, we are back on the show soon. They meet each other at 11 a.m. on ESPN. On ESPN 2, you got East Carolina and undefeated number 23 Army. The Army coach is talking a little trash. We'll see how those two teams go to get them in their fear up near the end of the year. There on the Big Ten Network, you got Wisconsin against Northwestern at 11 a.m. UCLA and Rutgers. That's on FS1. You got Arizona State and Cincy on ESPN Plus. South Carolina coming off the tough loss to Alabama. They faced an Oklahoma team that is coming off the game just smacked by Texas. 45 on the SEC network. And the big game here at 2 o'clock, as go to the 2:30 games, I should say. You got number 7 Alabama and number 11 Tennessee on ABC.
I want to go back to that Wisconsin Northwestern game with just a moment. I know Wisconsin's favored by 7.5 points, but I think Northwestern can keep this close since they're the home team by the leg. I know that Wisconsin, Tawi Walker, they start running back, has 9 rushing touchdowns on the year, but I think Northwestern's defense, which is very strong, could slow him down a little bit. If they could slow him down, I think they have a chance. I think Northwestern, I'll give them a slight chance to pull off the upset, but Wisconsin, from the stuff that I saw for for them the last couple weeks. I'm not very impressed by them. Braden Locke, 6 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Their starting quarterback. I'm not been impressed by them either. I think Wisconsin wins this game, but I think it's going to be by 5 points or less. I think Northwestern's defense is going to keep this one tight. I think also to their Wildcats defense got to come up with 2 turnovers or more. If they do, I think they automatically win this game. Now going to the Alabama-Tennessee contest. Tennessee with Northwestern mentioned with their defense. Tennessee has one of the top 5 defenses in the country, in my opinion. Alabama on the flip side, Jalen Monroe has been struggling a little bit here these last 2 or 3 weeks. He's going to face another big test on the road at Neyland Stadium. Right now, Jalen Monroe has 4 interceptions to go on with his 12 touchdown passes. He's going to have to protect the football if Alabama expects to win. Right now, they're favored by 3 points.
Could be interesting to see how the Tennessee secondary does against Ryan Williams. I mean, that's probably going to be the big test to see what they're going to be, because the secondary is really probably one of the tops in the country for Tennessee. So that battle between them, it's going to be interesting. Milroe and Maliva from Tennessee. That's going to be an interesting matchup too with the quarterbacks. So I'm looking forward to seeing. I mean, this could probably come down to a wire like it usually is in the last few years between these 2 teams. So I'm looking forward to this. Should be one more entertaining games coming up. That'll be on ABC. Notre Dame faces Georgia Tech at 2:30 on ESPN. Another one of big games here in the Big Ten. You got number 24 Michigan against number 22 Illinois. That'll be on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus. Illinois got caught looking ahead a little bit with their pants down against Purdue last week. Now I know it's gonna be I know they have orange eyes. I know the game's already sold out. I think they're gonna be wearing some. I think the uniforms they played the last time they beat Michigan, so they gave Michigan all they could handle last year. So they're not afraid, but Michigan's had a bye, so that should help them kind of get ready for this game. So I'm looking forward to see who can set the tone early, who can kind of get it going, and that's really this is really going to be what it is. I know Michigan, they're having trouble with their QB situation, and that's really we'll see how that does. I know Warren's got he's going to get the start there for Michigan. Now, Luke Altmaier, he can't that Michigan defense is still pretty good, so he can't afford to make those big mistakes he did against Purdue. He can't do that.
Yeah, and also too, I'm looking at the running games for both teams as well. Khalil Mullins for Michigan, he has 589 rushing yards on the year with 6 touchdowns. Illinois, you mentioned with that tough defense, especially up front, they're going to have to run the ball and wear that Wolverines defensive line down. Also, to Pat Bryant on the plus side, Lakina for Illinois, they start wide receivers, 7 receiving touchdowns on the year. You mentioned he's going to have to be a big factor in the game plan as well. If he's going to be a big factor, you mentioned Luke Altmaier, he cannot, I repeat, cannot turn the football over. And number 2, that Illinois defense going to have to had to create some turnovers. I'd say at least 2 turnovers, and they're going to have at least 3 to 4 sacks. If they do, I think they can win this ball game. And P.S. shout out to our good friend of the show, Miss Casey Sanderhart, who's the in-game host for the final lineup this year. She's going to be down there Saturday as well. So those of you going down there to the games, please support her.
Yeah, I'll say give her a low. She's pretty friendly. So just say hi to Casey. And shout out to her and our other girl, Kylan Mills. They called the CPS boys soccer championship over the weekend. So
WCIU, yes.
Yeah, so we're to see 2 of our faves. We can get both on the show soon. I know they're super busy, so and we don't mind it, and we actually love that for them. Navy defeated their number 25. They host Charlotte, who are undefeated in the American, so that should be interesting when they're on CBS Sports Network. NC State and Cal, that'll be on ACC Network. Hawaii, they get to play an inland game. They could play a game inland and early. They face Wazoo on the CW Network, WGN TV here in Chicago. And let's see, Northern Illinois, they host Toledo. They're starting to get back on track a little bit, so we'll see how they do against Toledo in the MAC. That'll be on ESPN Plus. Let me see if I can get this open here. Yeah, it's gonna be a big
win by NIU last week on the road. Yeah. Yeah, big win by NIU on the road last week against Bowling Green. Tough defensive battle, but they won 17-7. So things are looking back on track for the guys up there in DeKalb.
Should be a good one as Toledo's also 4-2 and 1-1 in conference. So that should be a fun matchup for there in DeKalb. Let's see. Oh, Colorado and Arizona. This will be the 3:00 game on the Big Fox Network. And of course, Colorado the tough loss against K-State. Arizona, they had a fast start, but they've struggled the last couple of games. So it's going to be interesting to see how these two teams do. But I think Arizona, look, I think it could be a high-scoring affair, I think. But, it's going to be interesting to see kind of like Shedeur Sanders. Of course, we know all this stuff. He's been a little bit banged up. But Noah Frida's FIFA, I should say, from Arizona, he's no slouch either. So it could be a nice little quarterback matchup. And Arizona's defense is actually pretty good too. So it could be one of those things where it could come down to who has the ball last, I think.
I think Vegas agrees with you. The over on the total for this one is 57.5. Arizona's favored by only 2.5 points at home. You mentioned Shedeur Sanders. He's still having a nice year, but the offensive line for Colorado took a step back last week, in my opinion. The lack of running game cost them. Of course, they had the injuries to Travis Hunter and Jimmy Horn Jr. Both their top two wide receivers, they were not in the lineup in the entire second half, and they damn near pulled off the upset over K-State. So hopefully both those guys can play that I just mentioned. If they do play, how long can they go? And Colorado's defense has actually been much better than it was a year ago. Credit Warren Sapp, their defensive line coach as well. So, like you said, you mentioned. I think it will come down to whoever has the ball last, and whoever's defense comes up with that big turnover is going to win this ball game.
A few more games real quick. Texas A&M and Mississippi State still SEC number at 3:15. Going to the nightcap, you got LSU and Arkansas on ESPN. Could be an upset alert there. Vanderbilt, they're a couple games away from going to a bowl game. They host Ball State on ESPN Plus and also SEC Network Plus. The big game, another one in the SEC at 6:30. You got number 5 Georgia against number 1 Texas on ABC. This is going to be one of those slugfests here, and Georgia's will be facing their second top 10 team in the last few weeks. So hopefully they'll have a better result here than they did against Alabama a couple weeks ago. But Texas, we'll see. Of course, Quinn Ewers and Carson Beck, of course, for Georgia. Although I think it could come down to the defense. I think both these teams are really solid top 10, top 15 defenses. So it could be between those who can make the big plays.
I think Texas' defense is a little bit better than Georgia's. I know Carson Beck has bounced back in the last couple of weeks for that Georgia Bulldogs offense, but I think he's going to be in trouble Saturday night. Texas is the home team. They're going to be riled up, fired up, and I think Texas is going to take this one. They're favored by 4.5 points according to the boys in Vegas. I think, like you said, defense is going to be the call here. If not for the whole game, definitely once the fourth quarter begins.
UCF and number 9, undefeated number 9, Iowa State as at 6:30 on FS1. You got K-State against West Virginia. That's going to be on the Big Fox Network. That could be the reverse, but I digress. Iowa and Michigan State. That's going to be on NBC and streaming on Peacock at 6:30. That should be an interesting matchup. There, Kentucky and Florida. No, it's not a basketball matchup, kids. This is a football matchup on SEC Network at 6:45. Number 21, SMU against Stanford at 7 o'clock on the ACC Network. Stanford and the ACC, that's still a little bit weird to adjust. UNLV and Oregon State, that's the nightcap on the CW Network. So no GN Sports, that night, folks. Also, last game at 9:30, you got TCU and Utah. I want to give our best wishes to Cam Rising, who he's now having problems with his prostate. So he might have to register it again. I mean, I wish him best wishes to him, but I think he should be getting his PhD as many years as he played over there in Utah. The poor guy has to register, but I want to wish him, give him a shout out and get well soon.
Yeah, same here from all of us here in Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago.
All right, Rico, really quick break. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 coming up here on Second City Sports. Sports in Chicago, we got a buddy, former WGN TV producer, Larry Hawley, joining us to talk some of the latest college Chicago sports happenings, also some college football and college hoops. As on the hoop side of championship, coach has announced his retirement, sudden retirement. He'll give you the reasons in a second, and we'll talk about that. And also, too, of course, our girl Christine Manika from KXRB. I'm sure she'll have her thoughts on the White Sox, and perhaps maybe would she be okay with the Sox losing Nashville? And of course, our pigskin pick'ems for week 7 is very close between the three of us. I'll leave it there, the teaser, and so much more. A lot more fun coming up next. Lakina McGee, Steve Brown, Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. Back with Larry Hawley coming up after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean,
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of this hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CK80. Once again, it's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Lakina McGee on the Twitter, X, again, the IG.
If you have any questions or comments for our next guest as we talk about Jerry Reinsdorf, college football, and the rest of the Chicago sports scene, you can, with our guests, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Look at them and get them up on the screen for you.
Sorry about that, folks. Mom's texting me, but got to answer a text from my mom. But All right, so we got an old friend of ours, of course. You guys used to see him on WGN TV. This multimedia producer and also a TV producer as well. He still follows sports, even though he's not doing that anymore. Well, to catch him up a little bit, of course, he likes running marathons. If you listen to a show, he likes his brewery as well. So let's get right to it. Of course, let's talk to Mr. Larry Hawley, our buddy. Larry, how are you?
Hey, it's good to be back, guys. It's great to see you. It's been a little while, so thanks for having me on. I always appreciate it.
No, we appreciate having you on with us, and let's get right to it. Start with the big story that with the Bears being on bye. Of course, some has to come out of over one of our other teams. So the White Sox, of course, do you think Jerry Reinsdorf sells it to Dave Stewart, and if he does, do you think he Stewart and his group decides to take them on the move?
Well, I mean, certainly Stewart has been looking to get into ownership for a long time, and one of the places he would like to go is Nashville. So I think if this transaction were to actually occur, I think it's very possible that the White Sox could head to Nashville. For fans who have been following the White Sox for about a generation, maybe the generation before. Remember, the team almost moved to Tampa. They were going to move into Tropicana Field, which was called the Suncoast Dome. It almost happened once. Could it happen again? I don't know. I'm kind of torn whether this is a ploy to get more money for the 78 or whether this is a legitimate attempt by Reinsdorf after a brutal year to try to sell the franchise. If he does sell to Stewart, yeah, I think they could move to Nashville. Will they sell? Will Stewart be able to buy it? Will he get the group and all that right to get that happen? Will Reinsdorf actually go ahead and sell the franchise? All are to be seen, but certainly it's interesting and a little surprising that Jerry, who never mentioned before about possibly selling the franchise before he were to pass away, he's talked about perhaps plans after he's passed away. To talk about it now is a little surprising.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question to you, Larry. The timing of this, what were your thoughts? Were you surprised like I was? And do you think this is a ploy to trying to get his last attempt from the city of Chicago from Governor Pritzker here in the state of Illinois to get public funding for that potential new stadium downtown?
In my personal opinion, I think it's 50-50. I think maybe there is a thought on that part for him, maybe to push a little bit to get that ballpark, to get the 78. Yet at the same time, maybe there is some legitimate interest. Remember, it's been a really rough 2 years for him. You might remember in August, probably August, September of 2003, he said the 2003 season was his worst year in baseball. What does that make 24? Probably a little bit worse. Do I think it's a ploy maybe to get some more money, maybe to put that thought out there that the White Sox could move, especially having Dave Stewart tied to some of these reports, and Stewart has worked so hard to get a team to Nashville? I think it's probably 50-50 in some way. Is there legitimate interest to sell the franchise? I think there could be. Jerry is reaching the end of his stewardship of the team. They had a chance, I think, maybe in some ways to win a World Series here with some of the talent. Whatever happened, it just fizzled out. Maybe he feels that may be his last chance to get a championship. I just, in my mind, it's 50-50. Where reality lies, we'll have to see.
Let's go to the north side of town for a second, Larry, and looking at that letter that Cubs owner Tom Ricketts posted last week. It was a bunch of, not as much word salad as Reinsdorf, but a bunch of word salad nonetheless. And I kind of feel like, you hear, and now I guess Ed Hoyer's upset because he didn't get his contract extension. And now you got Craig Counsell without saying it without saying that that he needs help. He needs kind of like, they need to basically spend money. So what do you think the Cubs will decide to do during this offseason?
Well, there's no reason in my mind, looking at what the Cubs have done, that they're not going to do. I don't think they're going to go out there and go get a Soto. I don't know if they're going to do a huge push to get one of the major guys. I think they'll try to make a good signing. We've seen them go internationally to go get Suzuki and Shota. We've seen those have really been their two moves. They went ahead and got Bellinger. I think Bellinger really wasn't maybe a major move when they made it because he was coming off a couple rough years. That ended up being a major move. There's this part of me that thinks that it may be status quo again because Jed Hoyer's still in charge. Carter Hawkins is still the GM, although really Jed kind of has his hand on the wheel. There's just part of me that really doesn't think that the Cubs are going to make a massive move. There just is a thought that Jed's going to have to make the right moves this offseason to get it done, where they can shore up the bullpen, find a closer. Because remember, Adbert Alzolay, he had Tommy John, so he's going to be a bit till he's back. There's just part of me that doesn't see the Cubs becoming making that Yankees move. Even making that like John Lester move or that Jason Hayward move where you offered, or even, even to a Yu Darvish, where you offer significant money to a free agent. Will they? You never know. Ricketts now is, the Cubs are going to be 9 years removed from the World Series championship. Perhaps maybe even more alarming, the Cubs are going to be, let me do the quick math, are going to be 8 years removed from their last playoff victory, which was Game 4 of the Dodgers NLCS back in 2017. So there's maybe a lot of impatience that might be growing with Ricketts. Certainly it is for the fan base, this new generation of fan base that expects winning. So I think Jed kind of is doing what he's doing. Would I rule out a huge signing? No. Would I be a little surprised by it? Yes.
I was going to ask you my next question. Do you see the Cubs making the big moves? But since you answered that, I'll move on. I'll give you not a wrap up. I'll give you a question on one of the young players that stepped up for the Cubs this year, Crow Armstrong. He's one of the fastest guys in baseball as far as on the base pass is concerned. I thought he improved defensively and he matched it with his bat in the month of September. Give us your take on Crow Armstrong. What do you see his ceiling in the next couple of years?
I'm curious to see what it will be because I think people were skeptical before 2024, and I think he may have turned some people on the other side, not only with the way he was able to even hit with a little bit of power at times, but his speed becomes a weapon on the base pass, and we know a lot about his defense, which he's played pretty well, even going back to when they traded for him in the Javier Baez deal with the Mets. Everybody talked about his defense and the awards he got with that. I'm really curious to see his development because I think it'd be a really critical thing if the Cubs were able to get him to be a center fielder. Remember, that position has been in flux since Dexter Fowler left in 2016. You really haven't seen the Cubs have a really, not only I would call a dominant, really super impact center fielder. But it'd be great to have that. And if he could also lead off, that'd be awesome as well because the Cubs have had leadoff issues now, of course, since Fowler. I'm really excited. I'm hesitant to jump to conclusions because I think he made a lot of progress last year to declare him to be the guy in center field. But I think you're encouraged by what you saw that there may be even greater ceiling for Crow Armstrong, and where he may fit into the franchise's plans, I think will be really decided here in 25 to see if he can follow up that improvement with a strong full season.
Talk to our buddy, former WGN TV producer Larry Hawley here on Second City Sports. On Sports of Chicago, Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Let's switch gears and talk some Bulls now. Of course, their season starts next week, and there's still like a lot of things that are like some people are kind of wondering like what's going to happen, with Zach LaVine and Vooch. It's great to see Lonzo Ball back on Wednesday. He got the game ball. In their win against Minnesota. So really congrats to him. And he looked really good. I mean, he hit his first shot coming off the bench there. So where do you think the Bulls are going to be this year? And do you see them making any major changes as we get close to the trade deadline early next year?
Interesting to watch, I think, Zach, and maybe even Lonzo, if the team determines that they're not in a position where they maybe want to try to push for the playoffs, which doesn't seem like it based off of what Arturas is at least publicly saying. I think Zach and Lonzo are really two interesting pieces because obviously I think there were attempts to move Zach that didn't really work out. Last year he was injured for a lot of the year, and then of course this offseason nothing happened. I think for me the biggest storyline entering the year and what could dictate some moves is to see what Lonzo Ball will be able to do. I think if you're a Bulls fan, no matter whether you want them to win or you want them to tank, I think you were pretty excited to see him back on the floor again. It had been about 1,000 days since he did that. And he was able to show some moments. He was able to have some moments. He was able to show some good awareness, some flair, made a couple of shots, some good defense. I've always maintained that I think the last Bulls era might have been a little bit different if Lonzo was there. Not talking about them winning an NBA championship. They would have had to make a few other moves to make that. But I think if Lonzo was there might have been more life to what was that core. Obviously, that didn't happen, and now you're kind of left with some of the pieces of there. You still have Vucevic, you still have LaVine. So I'm really curious. Lonzo, to me, Lakina, is really the player I'm most interested in watching early. We know what you can get from Zach. Zach can turn it on if he's healthy, which it seems like he is. I think he'll have an ability to impact. But Lonzo's really interesting because not only could you view Lonzo as a trade piece, if they could do it, maybe you view him as a piece to a team that's trying to grow. And we'll see what that happens. But for me, Lonzo is the really interesting guy here for the Bulls as the season starts next week.
You mentioned that the quarter of this roster could be gone by February. I want to focus in on these two players that may be part of a trade package. Me personally, I hope it doesn't happen, but I understand it's a business. These two players, I want to get your take on Patrick Williams, who signed the contract over the summer, and of course, Io DeSumo, who signed a couple years ago. I want to get your take on those two players. What do you expect from those two young guys this year?
Well, I think Io is making steady progress. I think, for people who would, saw him drafted back in 21, you've got to be really happy with what he's done, with how he's progressed as a player. Every year he's gotten better, and I think the expectation and the hope is he can do so this year, perhaps with, again, a little bit more role. They're trying to figure out what he's going to do, what's Lonzo going to be. So curious to see his role there. With Io, you expect some improvement. Patrick Williams is really someone, I think, outside of Lonzo, for me, it's probably Patrick Williams second. Again, for me, you know what you're going to get out of Levine. If he explodes, maybe you trade him. But Patrick is somebody who the Bulls have been just sitting there and waiting to see what he's going to be. Is he going to be a guy who's going to come forward in scoring? Is he going to be somebody who impacts in a lot of different places on the floor? Haven't really seen that. You've seen bits, pieces here and there, but enough. And again, he was the number 4 pick of the first draft for Arturas Karnisovas and for Mark Eversley. So they're going to give him a lot of chances to succeed. Is there a chance he'll succeed? Look at Kobe White. Look what Kobe's been able to do after the Bulls rewarded a strong finish to the regular season back in 22-23 with a new contract. And he now is looking to be one of those guys who's going to be a consistent contributor for the Bulls so far. So I'm really curious to see, I think maybe more than Io. I think with Io, you know what you're going to get, a little steady progress. But Patrick, there definitely is a feeling there. Curious to see if he can reach it here in Chicago.
I hope neither one will have to go, but we'll have to see what happens. Now, going into, let's talk some Blackhawks for a second. They got the win yesterday against San Jose, yay! And it's great to, kind of I didn't get a chance to watch it. We'll get to that in a second, I'm sure. But what do you think of the Blackhawks? I mean, they brought in a couple. They got Tabo back. They brought in other veterans. And what do you, sort of like, of course, the more growing of Connor Bedard. So where do you think the Blackhawks are going to be this season?
I'm hoping, I think the dream for any fan is that they would maybe enter the end of March with a shot to make the playoffs. I think the last month making the playoffs, maybe that's the dream. And I don't think people really are looking for the Hawks to actively tank this year as they might have been the year before or last year. You've got your picks now. You've got your you've got your couple of players that you think are really going to make an impact. I think at this point, for me, it's really steady improvement from Bedard. I think when Kevin Korchinski comes back up, he started in the AHL this year after starting in the NHL last year. So he's someone who I think his progress and his growth is going to be interesting to watch this year. The Hawks have a lot to figure out, but they've got some more veterans that are there to kind of make sure that they're at least a little bit more competitive. They could have a major increase in points and still not make the playoffs. That's kind of how far off, that they really were last year and can do that. And I think that's not something that I've stated. That's something that a lot of people close to the team have stated. I think for me, it's just steady improvement. You want to see flashes out of Bedard. You want to see flashes out of, Artem. You want to see other guys really step up. I think that's kind of what it is for this year. I think playoff expectations and hopes really start next year. I think you've got one more year for the Hawks to build, be more competitive this year. And in the dream scenario, you either A, have some veterans you can trade and maybe get a little younger if that's what they too desire, or I think maybe more desirable for Blackhawk fans is to enter the last 3 weeks to be legitimately in playoff contention, which would be a first in the Bedard era. And of course, elephant in the room, you want to see improvement from Connor Bedard. He is your franchise. He in many ways is the future of the National Hockey League. And I think those are simple, modest goals for a Blackhawks team that really doesn't have high expectations yet.
We're halfway home with our guy and former WGN TV producer Larry Hawley with us right here on Second City Sports, right here on Sports on Chicago City. Lakina hanging out here with you. Larry, let's talk about the Chicago Bears. They're on bye this week. They're 4-2 on the year. They dismantled the Jacksonville Jaguars in London last Sunday morning over here in the States. Of course, they won their last 3 games. I believe they won their last 8 games at home. Give us your take about the Bears. Are they contenders or are they pretenders as they're going to enter that toughest part of the schedule starting next week at Washington?
Well, I think they're contenders because you've gotten what you wanted really out of the first 6 games. If you think about it, for me personally, the only dud game is Indianapolis. And I think the only reason you had a dud game in Indianapolis was because that was the only time really this year you kind of looked at like the play calling and you looked at some Eberflus decisions on timeouts or two, and you're kind of like, wait a minute, this is stuff that was a problem in year 1 and year 2. And, now it's a problem again. The Indy loss was frustrating, but everything else has pretty much gone as you might have expected. The Texans with their front and a little bit more experience, we're going to give the Bears problems. They certainly did. The Bears almost won the game. And I think what's, people have been saying, and, over the last 2 games, when we've seen steady improvement from Caleb Williams, oh, well, the Bears played some bad opponents. Well, in the past, the Bears would play bad opponents and lose. The last 2 weeks, they've come out, they've not only played well, but they've won the game and done so decisively. Now, that includes the game against the Panthers and includes the game against the Jaguars in London. Those are encouraging things. Are you going out there and screaming the Bears are a Super Bowl contender? Absolutely not. But their defense has been as solid as you expected. They've created turnovers, and the offense is making steady progress. They're 4-2 before they hit what is going to be a really difficult stretch here against an NFC North that's really, really good right now. So right now, I said the Bears would be about 10 wins. I'm not backing off that yet.
All right. Well, you just covered what my next couple of questions for you, so we'll move along. Yeah, right. So, I know you're an Illini grad. Let's talk some college sports for a second. Illinois. I know I saw your tweets last week. You were nervous. After almost losing to Purdue, they play Michigan tomorrow. And where do you think? Do you think they could? It would be an upset, obviously, but you think Illinois could perhaps maybe get up there with the Ohio States and the Oregons in the Big Ten?
I think Brett Bielema, and I wish I had the exact quote on me, and I'd read it online after the Purdue game, where he said the team, essentially insinuating that this was a team that could do great things. And again, could do great things. Has done good things so far. I think that win at Nebraska was fantastic. Could they do some great things? We'll have to see. I think the next 2 weeks will tell where this Illini team is. You're going into the Michigan game. Michigan's 4-2. They're not what they were last year. That atmosphere in Champaign, I'm going to be there tomorrow, will be probably the biggest that they've had there for a football game, in a really long time. I'm thinking back to the Michigan game in 2007, the 2001 season of the Big Ten Championship, the Michigan 2000 game. You're really looking at some fairly significant, crowds and a fairly significant atmosphere that's going to be there. And it could inspire them. One thing I have thought about with Illinois, though, is Michigan has 2 losses. They're a defending national champion. Their season kind of rides on tomorrow. So it's going to be a very difficult game for Illinois because Michigan really is playing for their hopes. I think, for a playoff, it probably is a little outside for a playoff. They're playing for their hopes to save that season. So it's going to be a very good thing. Will Illinois have anything for Oregon? We'll see. Again, going back a little bit to the Bears and why I think this Illinois team could be in position to win maybe 9 or 10 games. Last week against Purdue, that second half, not really acceptable. It was not great. Their defense couldn't stop anybody, but they won. That's a game Illinois in the past 99 times out of 100 loses. They found a way to win the game. They made one defensive play the entire second half, and they made it when they had to. So I think Illinois has a chance to be toward that upper part of the Big Ten. Are they going to be there with the Ohio States, the Oregons, the Penn State, who they did play very well? Ask me in about 2 weeks.
Sticking with the Big Ten, Larry, we know about Ohio State and Oregon. Great game last week in prime time, the highest rated game in the Big Ten since 2008. But I want to get your take on these 2 teams. Northwestern, they had a big win at Maryland last Friday night. They host Wisconsin tomorrow by D-Leg. And, of course, Indiana, they play Nebraska. Give us your thoughts about Northwestern and Indiana. Indiana is off to their best starting years.
Well, let's start with Northwestern, and that's a big win they got at Maryland. They've had a kind of an up and down sort of start to the year after what was an unbelievable and frankly shocking 2023 season where David Braun pulled them out of a miserable summer and not only made a bowl game, but went there and won it, beating Illinois on the way to do that. And I've never been as impressed with what a coach did as what David Braun did at Northwestern last year, considering what he walked into at that point. Northwestern's defense is still pretty good. I was taking a look at it, kind of refreshing on the season. They're 19th in the country. Jack Loush is their quarterback now. Maybe they're able to roll a little bit with him. I am very, I'm like a lot of people, kind of curious to see what, maybe the second half of the season holds. I think that's going to be a really intriguing matchup, Illinois Northwestern at Wrigley Field the last week of the year. And I think the same thing for me for Indiana. I had covered Indiana football for 7 years in Indianapolis. It is a hard knock, hard luck, program. Their success has been very limited. You had that little run in the pandemic year, and then that faded away. I know a lot of people are saying they haven't played anybody yet. Yeah, their schedule hasn't been, super loaded, but they are 6-0. And again, that's a program that sometimes doesn't go 6-0. Maybe they're 4-2 against that schedule in the past. I think Cignetti has set a good example, at least has set a new culture there, at least early on. Again, you talk about culture, it's a little early, but I certainly think they've done everything they can do to win. And they're facing a team in Nebraska that's probably about on their level. I always considered Illinois and Nebraska when they played a couple of weeks ago to be on the same level. I think now Indiana faces that same thing. And you're going to find out a lot about Indiana when they face Nebraska, and things toughen up just a little bit down the stretch.
Let's talk about nationally in college football. Of course, Texas #1 right now. They face Georgia tomorrow. Of course, Oregon, they got a tough one against, well, I wouldn't say tough, but, avoiding the letdown against Purdue tonight. Where do you see the 12 teams in the playoff at this point? You got Penn State. You got Notre Dame is up there. Alabama. Where do you think how do you think the playoff situation, especially with it being extended, when an expanded field is set up here?
Well, it's going to be kind of interesting. I think it's great that they set it up. The only thing I wish they would have done was leave a couple of major bowls for the other teams that don't make the playoff to have something to play in. That's about the only complaint that I really have. Texas has been really good. The SEC is always kind of it's a fight, so you never know who's going to come out of there. You figure 3 will come out of there. Interesting to see if the Big Ten gets 2, maybe 3. Right now I think Oregon is there. Right now I'd say maybe Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State come out of there. Again, do you have miracle teams? Like I know some people said Indiana going to the playoff. There are a lot of Illini fans who said the Illini going to the playoff. I don't think it happens personally unless they win out, and that includes winning the Big Ten championship game. I love the Illini. I went to Illinois, big Illini football fan. Illinois is not making the playoffs unless they win completely out, and that includes the Big Ten championship. But I'm really curious to see. I think Notre Dame is interesting, obviously being locally and following Notre Dame a lot. If they win out, do they get in? Does the Northern Illinois loss take too much away from them? Are they going to get left out because of that? Do you leave an SEC team that maybe has 2 losses out because of a 1-loss Notre Dame team? I think, honestly, just being locally Notre Dame is intriguing because they've been fairly solid outside of one bad game against NIU. And I'm curious to see what they'll be. But things are going to shake out. I'm sure you're going to have a surprise. Does a Boise State end up, holding there? It would be fitting because Boise State, about 15, 20 years ago was the one breaking up the BCS. I'd be curious if they made it. It's a very interesting situation. But I think from my personal local intrigue, it's what Big Ten teams get in. Will it be 2, 3 teams that get in? Because I think 2 will get in. And I think what becomes of Notre Dame if they run the table, because obviously if they lose the second game, they're out.
Last question for me as we're hanging out with Larry Hawley, the former WGN TV producer in Chicago. He's hanging out here with us on Sega City Sports. Sports on Chicago City, kicking it with you. Larry, last question from me. Of course, the new Chicago Sports Network, CHSN, launched a couple of weeks ago. DirecTV and a couple other small satellite providers. If you have it, you can watch it comfortably. But yours truly has Xfinity, Comcast. They still have a struggle deal. Yes, as of this live broadcast. Lakina has YouTube TV. I know others who have YouTube TV, Hulu, and it looks like with those streaming services, CHSN is no longer interested. Lakina's on protest, rabbit ears right now. Have you ever been able to watch the new network? If so, what are your thoughts thus far?
Everything I've seen from the network, and I've seen a lot on clips, has been impressive. I think the broadcasts have looked clean. I know that they adjusted the score bug a little bit. That wouldn't block out the players. So
Oh
I
my
think
God.
that's interesting. The broadcasts are clean. I like what Rick Ball has brought to the Blackhawks broadcast, and from what I've been able to see, like me, you're kind of catching things hit and miss as they figure out carriers. I've liked, basically some of the segments. There's obviously a lot of people I know and I worked with. The segments seem solid. The game broadcast, from what I've seen, it seems solid. Obviously, the carriage issue is a huge thing, and that dwarfs everything. And I'm curious to see how that will all play out, as I'm sure every single person who watches Chicago sports is doing right now. And that is interesting. But based off what I've seen, it seems like it's pretty solid. And, they've made some adjustments with the score bug. And again, you're going to hear a lot of the same voices you heard on NBC Sports Chicago. So that transition isn't going to be as rough. But again, the carriage thing, until that is solved and until figured out, is going to be the topic. And I think the overwhelming topic for people when it comes to the Chicago Sports Network.
Last question for me, Larry. I know you're a big college hoops fan as well. With the season starting in a couple of weeks, I think this is going to be probably the best season for college hoops in the last few years. With they're basically pretty much wide open. And of course, you got Cooper Flag at Duke, and Kansas bringing everybody back, and then some. Yeah, well, the Tony Bennett thing, of course, kind of a two-part last question for me. Who do you think are the favorites in men's college hoops, and the Tony Bennett situation, him retiring? I'm sure you saw his quotes afterwards. So, I'm sure there are other coaches that feel the same way too. What do you think?
Well, I think, let me go to Tony, because, I think that the landscape is changing, and I don't think there's any doubt about it. And sometimes in any industry that you have, if things change too much, you kind of say, hey, you know what? I'm done. That's it for me. And these college coaches have the right to do that. They may view that they've done what they can do, and they're done. That's fine. That's part of life. Sometimes you look at it and say, I've done that. That's a personal choice that we make in any career that we do. And they're making a personal choice. It's not that college athletics is bad. They're chasing all these people away. College athletics is evolving. It's changing, just like everything else in society. What we view as things that have always been the same are really only things that have been there for about 25 years. A generation in the grand. I don't mean to be like preachy, but things that we think that have been there forever really only been there about 25 years. Players should have been paid for years, and now they're being afforded that opportunity. College athletics is having a very much difficult time in this growing period of NIL and how you figure it out. Some coaches are just exiting stage left. They don't want to do it. That's fine. They have absolutely the right to do that. As far as favorites, I think it could be, I wonder if Kansas, after a disappointing season last year, maybe they're going to have a new push. Maybe they'll have something else. Maybe Self will have something to say as he pushes for a third title. With Cooper Flag at Duke, they're going to be a contender. Locally, I'm very curious to see what Illinois is going to do. They have a new roster, but a lot of international talent has come in. You have Ty Rodgers coming back. And another really intriguing story, and one of the best in the Big Ten, is Northwestern. I'm so impressed with what Chris Collins did, really with his job probably on the line a couple of years ago, to go to back-to-back NCAA tournaments and really build some momentum in the program that had lost it from 2017 when they made the NCAA tournament. I'm very curious to watch what the Wildcats are going to do here and see how they're able to figure it out, because if they go to 3 straight NCAA tournaments, that's huge for the program, and it gets them, to that point now where you can look at yourself as being that program that expects to be in the NCAA tournament every year. And, obviously for Illinois basketball, that's huge, because it gives Illinois a natural rival here that will be obviously a good cross-section in Chicago. So I'm very curious to see for those two teams of local interest. And then, of course, I don't know, Kansas, maybe they have something, because they had a really disappointing year last year.
All right, that's been former WGN TV sports producer Larry Hawley. Larry, thank you so much for joining us here on Second City Sports and Sports on Chicago. You're one of our favorites, and it was nice seeing you again at the last Sox game I attended about a month ago. Nice to see you active again. Good luck tomorrow. Safe travels to the game down there in Champaign. Where can people find you on social media?
So yeah, you can find me same places. It didn't change. On Twitter, it's Hawley Sports, HAWLEY Sports, all one word. On Instagram, you can find me at LHAWLEY 80. So that's all one word, LHAWLEY 80. And maybe one of these days I'll actually start a podcast up. But you can also find some of my work. I now work for the Ankin Law Office. I do their social media and their marketing. And hey, we have a lot of sports connections. So you can follow us on Ankin Law at Twitter. That's ANKIN Law, all one word. It's both for Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. So we post a lot of sports stuff. So people who love sports, we have new commercials, we have new segments, all rolling out all the time. So please come check us out.
Will do. Larry.
All right, thank you very
so
much,
Larry.
Larry.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Always love it.
Yeah, congratulations
All right.
on running the Chicago Marathon too last week.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right. Continued
you.
success, Larry. We'll definitely get you back on here soon.
Thank you, Lakina. Thank you, Sydney. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks again.
All right.
Okay.
All right, that was the former WGN TV producer Larry Hawley here on Second City Sports. Sports in Chicago. We got our girl Christine Manika for KXRB on deck. Let's take a quick break here, Sid, and of course we got our Week 8 pick'ems. We title pick I should say coming up on for the NFL. Of course, I know she's gonna have her thoughts on the White Sox as well. So Larry versus Christine coming up next. Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. More fun coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to the hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakia McGee is she. Sydney Brown is me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Kingdom McGee on the Twitter, X, and again, the IG.
This is our last break of the show for today and for the weekend. And let's not waste any time, Lakia, as we bring her in for our Week 7 NFL picks. She's our weekend girl, Miss Christine, the Queen Manika from KXRB. Christine, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
We're doing just fine.
Good.
Doing just fine.
Doing good, good. Oh, nice SOS Man reference there, Sid, for those people who don't remember that underrated hit of theirs from back in the early 80s. Right, so let's get right to it here and go to our picks. We got a lot to do. Talk with you about. Thoughts to talk with you about, Christine. Got some good news. Christine's actually there's only 2 games separation between the 3 of us, but Christine's at the top, and I'm a game back, and Sid's 2 games back. So like I said, there's 2 games separation between the 3 of us. So it's getting a little tight up there as we get to about a little bit about halfway through the season, but look, it's fine. Look, there's a lot of seasons left to play.
Real quick, Lakina, just real quick, and no shade to Christine. The hell with the New York Jets last Monday night, and definitely the hell to the Dallas Cowboys. Oh, they laid a stinker.
Did you pick the Cowboys, Sid? Did you pick the Cowboys, Sid?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
You did.
For once I didn't.
Right. Yeah, right. So, aren't you glad you did? So, that was definitely a stinker there against Detroit yesterday. So, let's get right to it. Of course, the Bears and of course the Cowboys are on bye. Thank goodness, I'm sure. But let's get to it. Of course, the third game, I should say, from London. You got the Patriots and the Jags on NFL Network at 8:30. Yuck. Let's keep it short and sweet, folks. Sid, you start.
You don't need a breakdown for me in this game. I'm going with Jacksonville. They're favored by 6, even though they're technically the home team in London.
Yep, I'm going with Jacksonville too, especially since they've already been there for over a week now. So they should be well acquainted with the atmosphere.
Same thing. I'm picking Jacksonville as well. See, was that okay? Thank God that we didn't have to face too long with that one. Thank goodness. So I'm glad for that. Let's go to one. Seahawks. Coming off the tough last couple of games. They face Atlanta. Christine, you start this one for us.
I kind of like Atlanta for this one, especially since, Captain Kirk is still coming off of that high with that Thursday night game a couple of weeks ago. And the Seahawks have been really struggling, surprisingly, for the last couple of weeks. Do they need the win? Definitely. But I think that Atlanta is still rocking down there. And especially since this is a home game, it would be great to see if Penix can get a couple of snaps in. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon because Kirk Cousins is looking pretty good out there, so I'm picking the Falcons.
I think the Falcons, especially offensively, they're really about to take off. You saw what they did against Carolina last week. If the Falcons defense must do a better job, I think they're going to get a chance to do that sort of against the Seattle team. Seattle's traveling from the upper West Coast to the southeast portion of our country. And I think part of that is going to be a factor. But the biggest factor is the Falcons have too much offensively. So I'm going with Atlanta. They're favored by 3 points at home.
I think Seattle's kind of definitely fallen back to earth a little bit after that nice first couple of weeks. So I'm with you guys. Keep it short and sweet. I'm picking that Atlanta as well. Now going into let's see. We're going down up to Buffalo. Of course, Buffalo got a nice win against the Jets on Monday night, and they face the Titans. The Titans squad that's 1-4. I think there's kind of some anarchy. Jamal Adams, has been released, so he's, I'm sure he's going to get picked up by somebody soon. The Bills are starting to get it going here. I think that Jets win definitely gave them a little bit of that little extra confidence. Christine picked the Bills. She was the only one that did on Monday. So I'll pick the Bills too. I think the Bills are kind of getting it going, and they might take control of the AFC East.
I like the Bills too. The Titans, they've gotten better, but it's just they're not what they once were. The Bills are getting their stride, and they're really, getting back to what they were in the first couple of weeks. So I like the Bills for this game, and it's a home game for them as well.
Nice job by Buffalo for winning at the Jets for the first time in the last few years. And Aaron Rodgers wants to blame somebody else, but that's a whole nother issue. The Titans, another team that I picked last week, they gave that game away to the Indianapolis Colts, a much less inferior team. Since I'm on the personal redemption tour. I'm going with Buffalo here. They're at home. They're favored by 8.5.
All right. Shout out to our place, Bro Diaz. He and Anna Marchlet and Didi Kambaba will have this game for CBS. The Battle of Ohio. You got the Bengals and the Browns. I think the Bengals. I'm gonna go ahead and pick the Bengals here because I think look, Joe Burrow started to show a little bit spreading with the legs last week, and I think they're starting to kind of hit his stride a little bit. It
Your
might be too late.
money.
Yeah, it might be a little bit too late for them, for the playoff chances. But I think the Browns they're just stink. I know they're going to make Nick Chubb back, so it should give them a little bit of a spark offensively, but I just don't think it's enough. So yeah, I'm picking the Bengals.
Who do you think I'm picking?
I don't think we have to ask, but just
I don't think you
for
have
the
to
record.
ask. Bengals.
All right, there we go. We just gotta keep it on.
I'm going with Joe. I'm going with Joe Money too in the Cincinnati Bengals. I think surprisingly this is going to be close for a while, but I think the Bengals going to do enough. I think it's going to be their defense is going to make a big play at the end. So I'm going with Cincinnati here. They're favored by 5.5 on the road.
All right. Okay. So, and since I don't know if this game, so you can correct me wrong. This game is going to be on CBS in Chicago. Since Fox has a doubleheader again this week, but the Texans and the Packers. This is probably going to be like one of the bigger games of the weekend. So, Christine, you start this one.
I think this is going to be a good matchup. I think CJ Stroud is definitely in his sophomore slump, so to speak. I still haven't seen anything explosive coming out of Stephon Diggs ever since he got acquired from the Texans, and that doesn't really surprise me just because even when he was with the Bills, he didn't really do much last season. So I'm still kind of waiting for his moment to come out of his shell and to do something to get him to be connected more to CJ Stroud. But the Packers, they look really good. I think LaFleur has done a great job with the team over the last couple of years, the way that he's formed Jordan Love into the quarterback he is. It says something about the organization. And I like how Kraft looks too. He's a South Dakota kid. He's from a small South Dakota town, and he's just
Really?
he's just been looking really great as well. So I think that the Packers could win this game, and I am picking the Packers. But could it be a trap game for them? Could they, hit the gas and just ease up on the Texans? I don't know, but I am picking them for this win, and it is a home game for them too.
It pains me as a Bears fan to say this, but I gotta say this as a talking head on this program. And we said this for the last few weeks, Lakina. The Packers defense is better than what people think. Are they world beaters? No, but there are opportunistic defense that can create turnovers. I think they'll create another turnover or two here. Even though Houston's 2-1 away from Allegiant Stadium this year, I still have that other non-conference loss at Minnesota early in the year stuck in my head. I think they'll play a little bit better, but I think the Packers have something in store for them. I'm going with Green Bay here. Green Bay is favored by 2.5 points at home.
Yeah, we're not having Nico Collins there. He's going to be out for a few more weeks, so I think that's going to be a big showing there for the Texans. And like you said, Ed, Christine, I mean, CJ Stroud has struggled a little bit. Hasn't been bad, but he's kind of could be a little bit better. So I'm also going to pick Green Bay because I just think that they're a little bit better. Jordan Love's trying to sort of get his group back a little bit. So I think Green Bay. It'll be close, but I think Green Bay pulls it out late. Here you got the Dolphins coming off a bye. And they face the Colts. It looks like Anthony Richardson will get the start. I don't know who's going to start for the Dolphins. It looks like Tua's going to be out another few weeks. But I think Indy, only because they're just a little bit better. We'll see if Jonathan Taylor plays for Indy. But I think even still, I think Indy should win because a little bit better. And that's not really saying much.
This is my opinion. If it ain't Joe, don't go. Why would you even change something that's already working really well for you in Indy with Joe Flacco at the helm? Because they've look, Indy is not the best team, but with Joe Flacco leading the charge, it's like he's given another, sense of life to the team. He did the same thing with the Browns last year. It's like they gave the fan base something to cheer for. So I don't know the reasoning behind changing something that's working for them right now. I'm still picking the Colts just because it's a home game, but I'm not sure it's the right decision to change something where, you got Joe Flacco in the elite category again this week. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
Speaking of Joe Flacco, Christine, he has 7 touchdowns and 1 interception for the entire year. So those numbers back up your claims. I'm going with Indianapolis here. They are 3-point favorites at home.
This should be a good one here in the NFC North. This will be under a lot of guys here. Chicago will be on this game since the Bears aren't playing. You got the Lions and the Vikings. Sid, you start this one.
The Vikings are 4.5 favorites at home. So go figure with that. I know that's a pick 'em if you're betting on this one. The Lions, of course, they lost their top pass rusher, Aiden Hutchinson, to a broken leg. He's out for the year. So their defense, as Dan Campbell try to figure out another plan, is going to take a hit. The Lions still have firepower offensively with Jared Goff, Jamison Williams, David Montgomery, and Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon St. Brown. But I think the Vikings are on the level. They smell blood, especially with Hutchinson out for the year. Look for the Vikings to run the ball big time, and their defense is not as bad either. Now, on paper, the Vikings defense is better than Detroit's because Hutchinson is out. I think they're going to rise to the occasion. I'm going with Minnesota.
I think I'm going with the different story. I'm going with the Lions. There's just something about that team that it's the same story as last year. And even with Aiden Hutchinson out, unfortunately, for the rest of the year, they still got that grit and fire. And with a coach like Dan Campbell, that defense is going to step up to the plate for the rest of the season. And I just think there's a little bit more talent and a little bit more experience on the Lions side when it comes to this game. I still think the Vikings are a great team, and this is going to be a very great game. I still think Kevin O'Connell is going to be one of the nominees for Coach of the Year, like, in all honesty, considering his quarterback situation too. And there's great players on both sides of the ball, but I just think the Lions have something different in them that's gonna get them this road win. It's gonna be a really close game, and they're 2 very good teams. Anyone in the NFC North right now in this division, it's the best division right now in the league. So it's very hard to go against anybody in this division at this current moment. But I am going to go with the Lions for this one. There's just something different about this team and how Campbell carries his team in diversity and adverse situations.
I'm with you on that, Christine, but I think since Minnesota was on bye, and like Sid said, I think they smell blood, especially with Hutchinson being out. So we're just to see if they make a trade, in the next couple weeks. So I'm picking Minnesota. I think Sam Darnold will look great. I think that defense is a lot better than people think. And yeah, I think it's going to be one of those things where I think Minnesota will pull away late. I think it's going to be close, not going to be a blowout or anything like that. I think Minnesota will pull away late, I think. So it should be a great game there. Now you got the Eagles in the NFC East. You got the Eagles and the Giants. I'll say the Eagles only by default because the Giants, I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know. I mean, you don't know what to do with the Giants. Thought that maybe they could make some inroads, and then they have a bad one last week. So I don't feel it's not that much better, if we're being honest. But I think if AJ Brown, does this thing, and hopefully the defense could step up. I know a little bit shorthanded. I think they can win this game. So I think the Eagles. I pick the Eagles.
I was very close to picking the Giants this game just because, again, it could be a trap game for the Eagles because they have now looked great. When you have a coach yelling at the fans, what does that say? And then I was just thinking about it. Remember when the security guard yelled at the fans last year? There's something
Yep.
going on in Philly when it comes to yelling at the fans. So I don't know, but I am picking the Eagles. I will not be surprised if they lose just because how their season has been going this year. So I will kick myself in the teeth if the Giants end up winning this game. But for now, I'm picking the Eagles.
I'm going with Philadelphia too. They are favored by 3 points on the road. This will be a
See,
spot for the
that's what I
Giants.
mean. 3 points. That's what
Right.
I'm saying.
It would be something if the Giants will pull off this upset because it's a division game. I think it's going to be closer than what people think. And given the way that Philadelphia has played, yeah, like you say, wouldn't be surprised if the Giants pull an upset. Philadelphia should win this game going away, but the way they're playing is going to be closer than what people think. And what you said, Christine, by Nick Sirianni picking a fight with the fans last week, he did get called into the principal's office this past Tuesday. So hopefully you won't see him act the fool again on the sidelines because we all know that his job is on the line this year, especially after what happened last year, getting blown out at Tampa in the playoffs and the way they started this year. He cannot afford one more slip up. I'm just saying.
Very true. The Raiders and the Rams, of course. Devontae Adams now with the Jets. Tom Brady's now the part owner. We'll talk about that in a bit here. Rams coming off a bye. I guess I'll pick the Rams, I guess. This is gonna be a stinker anyway, either way. So I pity for anybody that has to watch this game on CBS. I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm picking the Rams. They look pretty decent this season. I'm not gonna, knock them down. It's the Raiders that kind of are blowing it right now. So I go with the Rams.
I'm going with the Rams too. Technically, it's a home game for LA. But don't forget, Los Angeles is a football town and still a Raiders town. The only thing the Raiders that have an advantage is going to be more Raiders fans at SoFi Stadium. But outside of that, the Rams are a better team. So I'm going with the Rams. They are 7-point favorites at home.
Yeah, so I guess Vegas knows something. Carolina, I should say, against Washington. Of course, the Bears are going off there by next Sunday. Short and sweet. The Commanders. I just don't see. Dan Quinn's not going to tell us guys, look, don't get caught ahead against that Bears game because I got flexed. So I think Washington will win this one pretty handily.
Commanders, easy.
Washington, they are 8-point favorites at home.
All right. Oh, see, that didn't take long. All right. The big game of the week on Fox. You got the rematch of this past year's Super Bowl. You got the Chiefs and the 49ers. Sid, you start this one.
San Francisco's favored by 2 points at home. The Chiefs are undefeated. The 49ers are back on track at 500. I like the way the 49ers have been playing. Jordan Mason is running the ball very well for San Francisco. Brock Purdy, he's starting to turn it around. But on the flip side for Kansas City, injuries to the offenses once again. And you're down the wide receiver in Rashee Rice. He's out for the year. Patrick Mahomes is not Patrick Mahomes, but what's holding that team together is their defense, just like last year. But I think only because it's a home game, and I think San Francisco has more on right in this game than Kansas City. I'm going with San Francisco.
I'm going with San Francisco for this one too. The Chiefs are down and out right now when it comes to injuries. You know that feeling when a team is not just the same. I think this is one of those times, and there's always that period where KC is going to have a down period at some point. Maybe this could be it. And if there's a time to get a revenge game, this is it. And especially when it's on your home turf. Brock Purdy's been looking really great, looking really strong. And I think, he can hopefully get his revenge. And Shanahan too. It may not be in the big game, but it's a start. So I'm picking the 49ers.
Yeah, so am I. I think, I know the Chris Jones and that, Chiefs defense has been really good, but I think with the consistencies of the offense for the Chiefs, and I think the 49ers smell blood. I think they want to get this game. And like you said, Christine, it's not going to be, it's not going to make it for the Super Bowl, but this will give them confidence should they meet again in a few months. So, I think San Francisco will pull away in this one. All right, the Sunday Nighter, that's on NBC. You got the Jets just featuring a new wide receiver, Devontae Adams, against the Steelers with Mr. Russell Wilson making his first start this 2024 season. Christine, you start this one.
You know, when the Jets got Devontae Adams, the first thought I had is, how is that going to help them? Because they still don't really have a coach to coach this team. And you got Aaron Rodgers, who looks like who needs a walker when he comes out on the field. I don't think I don't think it's going to make a difference, unfortunately. And Tomlin, we all know how he coaches. We all know that he's one of the best coaches in the league, and he knows how to coach a team really well, no matter who's the quarterback and who's the leader on the field. And it's a home game for the Steelers. You know, it's a tough field to play in with those fans. And I just don't think Aaron Rodgers is the player that he once was. And it's great that, they're talking and hyping up this big old reunion with him and Devontae Adams, but I just don't think it's not going to do anything. It's not going to solidify anything until they have a solid coach or Aaron Rodgers, loses a couple of years on him. So I'm picking the Steelers.
This Christine's mic drop on SNF Sunday Night Football. It's really a toss-up here. I know the Jets are favored by 2 points. I know you make a great case, Christine. I know Russell Wilson is starting. I know people expect disaster, but this is really tough. And I did not have this pick pre-planned. I swear I didn't. I'm going to go opposite. I'm going with the New York Jets. Here's why. They have a great defense. And guess what I've been begging for, Lakina, all season long? We saw last Monday night before they gave it away. They involved Breece Hall on the offense. Yeah. He gave me some fantasy points, and I loved it. So they have to do that again. I think you can get to Russell Wilson. You may see Fields in there later on, and they may change some things. But outside of that, until I see Russell Wilson, I know this will be his first game of the year. Until I see Russell Wilson put some things together, I'm going with the Jets. Even though they're technically favored here, I'm going to the Jets in an upset. We'll call it an upset on this show.
Fields is a different topic.
Exactly. That's a whole different convo. I'll pick the Steelers only because I don't trust the Jets. Like, you only have a week. You got to think Adams is going to take a couple of weeks for him to kind of get implemented. So even though the offense is actually very similar to what they ran in Green Bay, it's still going to take a couple of weeks to kind of get it implemented. So I would say the defense, too. TJ Watt will probably make a couple. We'll have Rodgers running. So I don't know, but it could be one of those 6-3, like 9-6 type of things. Back in the day in the 80s in the AFC sit. So we might see that kind of game, guys. But we'll see. But yeah, it should be maybe not. I don't know, but this should be a good one here. You got the Ravens and the Bucks on Monday night. It'll be on ESPN, ABC, and also Manning Cast with Bill Belichick. Also on ESPN Plus, ESPN Deportes. You got the Bucks and the host of the Ravens, and this is definitely going to be a tough one for me. It could be a toss-up game. I know the Ravens have been playing very well. I mean, the Bucks have had their hiccups. This is a toss-up. Again, and then has one plea break. I didn't have a pick coming, but I think I'll say Baltimore just because I think they're a little bit better than the Bucks. But I would be surprised if the Bucks are somewhere. But I am picking Baltimore.
I love this game and I hate this game at the same time because you basically, in my opinion, have the two MVP candidates against each other. You have Lamar Jackson and you have Baker Mayfield because Baker Mayfield has been pretty solid this year. Like you said, Lakina, there have been a couple of hiccups, but he has had a really good year. And same thing for Lamar Jackson. He's looked really good, a couple of hiccups, but still nonetheless really good. I am picking the Ravens, though. Derrick Henry has looked so good for the Ravens, and he has been a key asset for that team and has transformed the running game for them significantly, I think. And it's their job for the Buccaneers to figure out how they're going to match that energy, how they're going to try to stop Henry from getting past the line. So it's going to be a really close game, and I'm excited to watch this one. I am picking the Ravens for this.
Let's make it a clean sweep. I'm going with Baltimore. They're favored by 3.5 points on the road.
Should be an irritating one. This one on Monday night, not so much. That's probably why they have it on ESPN Plus exclusively. So if you have ESPN Plus, you can watch it. The Chargers and the Cardinals. Sid, I hope you were the list about picking the Cardinals. I hope, but yeah, I picked the Chargers here. I think they're starting to kind of get their stride a little bit. Justin Herbert, I know he's been a little bit banged up, but he's gotten better. That defense is really good. Marvin Harrison Jr. for the Cardinals. I don't know if he'll be. Has he been cleared for concussion protocol? I don't.
I don't know.
I haven't looked at.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the Chargers. I'll pick the Chargers and win this handily.
I think the Chargers too. Keep it short and sweet.
You see that garbage performance at Lambeau last week? Give me a break. I'm going with the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles, as we call them on this show.
And those are your picks for Week 7 of the NFL. There's the second season sports. Sports Chicago, Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown, and of course our girl Christine Manika, KXRB. Christine, we got a few more minutes left. What are your thoughts about the White Sox? Perhaps Ryan's kind of dangling, then perhaps maybe moving to Nashville. They EV sales to Dave Stewart and his group.
I feel like deja vu. We talked about this over the summer when rumblings of saying, "Oh yeah, we're looking for stadiums here, there, Nashville." Until something actually happens, it's all just words. It's all just talk and rumors at this point. Of course, he's thinking about the future. He's in his late 80s. He needs to start thinking about where the White Sox are going to go once he's no longer at the helm of it. So I'm not surprised that, he said that he's open to selling the team because he is at that point where he has to start thinking about where it's going to go from here. I'm sure he's thinking about that with a lot of things in his life. And the White Sox are probably at the forefront right now, considering their season just ended in the worst way possible for him. And he needs to come up with a plan going forward. I hope they stay in Chicago. I think the Cubs fans hope that that's the case because that's a great rivalry. That's a great crosstown rivalry. Nobody wants to go all the way to Nashville to see the White Sox. That doesn't make sense to have them in Nashville. So until something actually happens, it's all just word of mouth clickbait at this point.
I'm with you, Christine. We talked about it earlier, Lakina, especially with our guest Larry Howley, that it'll be bad for business to lose a team in Chicago. You got two teams in New York that may face each other in the World Series this year, which it looks like is unlikely at this point, especially given the way the Mets lost last night. And you have two teams in LA, your husband's team, Christine, and of course the Dodgers. So it'll be bad for business for the White Sox to move. It wouldn't make any sense anyway. So,
No.
So I don't think that's going to happen. Is it a possibility? Of course, but I don't think it's going to happen. Lakina, breaking news real quick from the world of television. No, not here in Chicago, but Diamond Sports Group, the ones that own Bally Sports, they retained the rights of the Miami Marlins. And Bally Sports is to rebrand to FanDuel Sports Network on October 21st.
There were rumors about that for the last couple of years. So with all this kind of happening, so I guess you're gonna have to have an app to watch those games on FanDuel. I think it is available in some carriers do have it, but you're gonna have to, I guess, get the app for it. So welcome to, like I said, I would say one more time, welcome to the sports and TV and media in 2024.
Yeah. In other sports media news, NFL Red Zone host Scott Hansen will do a Manningcast style broadcast during the Chargers Cardinals game on Monday night. That's going to be airing on ESPN Plus.
Well, it's going to be interesting how many people will view that game because it's not. I think there's a reason why they put that game out to pasture up to ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they're going to try to find a way to watch it, especially for you know how Scott Hand is his style of it, so he'll make it fun and interesting. So I'm glad for that for him.
All right. Go ahead.
No, yeah, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay, to baseball, of course, the playoffs are hot and rolling. The Los Angeles Dodgers are up 3-1 in the NLCS against the New York Mets, while the New York Yankees, they lose a heartbreaker last night to the Cleveland Guardians, 7-5 in 10 innings, but they lead that best of 7 series, 2-1. Christine, I know you picked the Yankees in San Diego to meet in the World Series. San Diego got eliminated last Friday by the Dodgers. Of course, if you're a baseball executive, you want the cross-country World Series between the Yankees and Dodgers. While if the Mets should come back to win that series against the Dodgers in the NLCS, you'll get the Subway Series. Which way are you leaning? Which World Series would you like to watch, Christine? The Subway Series or the cross-country World Series?
I think it's going to be New York and Dodgers. The way that it's playing out right now, I wouldn't be surprised if the Guardians come back. That would be a pretty neat story. I think that's going to go to at least 7 games, but I think the Dodgers are pretty solidly holding this lead right now.
Yeah, I think no Fox, like you said, I think they want that Yankees Dodgers, or they'll take the crosstown too. But I think Yankees Dodgers, I think that's going to be it. They deserve what their first meeting since all the way back in '81, the '81 World Series, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, that they haven't they haven't faced each other that much this part of this century especially. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Now, Christine, the WNBA finals. Good to see that getting some good ratings. So if you're a WNBA fan, you got to be feeling pretty happy about that. So that's good to see. New York is up 2-1. They play again tonight. Best of 5. Do you think the Liberty clinched this, or do you think Minnesota forced it to 5?
I know, the Minnesota fans out here would like to see them force it to 5, but after that 3, that buzzer beater that Sabrina got that other day, that was not only the shot of her career, but the shot heard around the WNBA, the league beyond. So I think the Liberty have a true shot of going to the championship, and that'd be awesome for them considering they haven't won a title yet. So that would be awesome to see that happen for them.
Like I said, Liberty wraps it up tonight.
I agree. I think Sabrina wants that. She wants that title. So I think they will wrap it up tonight as well. Christine, you're Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They had a nice win against Louisville and Stanford over the weekend. So what do you like their chances are tomorrow?
Georgia Tech, I think it's a chance. That's something. They got a couple of tough games coming up, and tomorrow being one of them. So 2:30, I'll be watching. Let's hope. I like how they've been looking so far, so let's hope that they keep going.
Yeah, they rebounded nicely after their loss to NIU almost a month ago now. My last question is regarding the Chicago Bears, but before I ask that, congratulations to your husband's team. I know he's riding high again after the 33-10 thumping of the New Orleans Saints last night. And Sean Payton's return down to New Orleans. I don't think many people watched that game because it was a dud, except for him from the first quarter to the last quarter. So congratulations to the Denver Broncos and your husband's team. But I want to ask you about the Bears. 4-2 right now. They're on the bye week. They go to Washington to face the surprising Commanders next week. Do you think as of right now, the Bears are pretenders or contenders for the playoffs this year?
Pretenders. And I say that because the last half of their season, from mid-November on, it's all divisional games with a couple sprinkles of here's a little fluff here of the Patriots, I think, or whatever, something like that in between.
49ers too at the end of November.
Yeah, right. Yep. So it's going to be very tough. It gives Bears fans a lot of bright lights and a lot of great hope for what's to come. But I wouldn't push it to the playoff. I'll be happy if they get a wild card spot for sure. But when you're in the best division now in the whole league, it's very tough to say contenders. So I'm going in the pretender route. I'm not going to be one of those I'm buying my Super Bowl tickets. No, I'm a realist in this situation. It would be great if they can get a win against the Vikings or stick it a game to the Packers, but that first game with the Packers is November 17th. That's the first divisional game, and it would be awesome if they can get that win. But for now, I'm being cautious. So let me change the word pretender. I'm going to say cautious. I'm very optimistically cautious.
I think you just invented that created a new phrase there, Christine. Nicely done there.
Trademark that.
I was saying, trademark that quick. Yeah, trademark that really quick. I should have had one more question for you before we went, but I kind of digressed there. Okay. Oh, you know what? With the Bull season, they're about to start on Wednesday. So where do you see the Bulls this season?
Well, if Lonzo Ball got on the court, I guess that's a start. We'll see what happens. I'm excited for the Aussie to get on the court too. Josh Giddey, is that how you say his
Mm-hmm.
name?
Yes. Yep.
Giddey,
Yeah.
yeah. He seems
Yep.
like he's going to be a good one. So we'll maybe this is a new turning point. We'll see.
All right, last question for me, Christine. What do you think about the Blackhawks? Their home opener last night, they got the win 42 over San Jose. Connor Bedard, he didn't score last night, but he got 4 assists. I know the Hawks are still in their rebuild mode. What do you think about them this year?
That's a good win. I mean, it's San Jose, but I think that's a good start. And even though Bedard didn't get a goal, having 4 assists, that's great. Everyone is a part of that team. You got to be a playmaker aside from being a score maker too. So he's still young. I think he's got still a great career ahead of him. And with guys, you know, and on that team to help him along the way, he's gonna be just fine. So I think that's a great start to the season.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what the Blackhawks do. I don't think they're gonna be a playoff contender, but I think they'll definitely be kind of like right there. You know, they're gonna play hard, and then hopefully, I think taking baby steps. Like that's good here. And Rick Ball
Baby
does
steps.
sound really good. Yeah, exactly. And Rick Ball does sound really good. I saw a couple of clips I saw from last night's game. From the table goal, I think he's not really good. We love Chris Foster. We hope we can still have him on the show at some point. But, I think they did make a good job of making the switch for that. And I think I have one more question for you, Christy. Oh yeah, Brian Anderson. Of course, he's of course you guys have heard him on the call for the Yankees Guardians. You saw that great call he had for Noel's 2-run home run, game time 2-run home run last night. Well, he's going to be signing. He's just signed a new contract with Warner Brothers. He's also going to be the voice for the French Open, because remember, the French Open is making the move. It's going to be on TNT starting next spring. So good for him. I think it is a nice showing for him. So we'll start with Sid first for this last one.
Yeah, he deserved the opportunity. That means if those of you in Milwaukee, even though your games will be on produced by Major League Baseball next year, it looks like I don't know the situation yet, but I know he did 50 games for the Brewers this year. I know he was their primary announcer. I know the games have been less and less because he has more Nashville stuff, but at some point it looks like he's going to be saying goodbye to the Milwaukee Brewers. When will that be? I don't know, but he deserved his opportunity, and he's getting it right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for him.
Well, remember how we got the opportunity too with the way back, when of course, Marv Albert, I think he was under the weather. So he was in the area when the regional finals games. I forgot what year it was, but of course he did a great job. And of course it's been, up from there. So yeah, I know it's gonna be a big loss for Milwaukee. Of course, he's done a great job. He's been like 12 or 13 years, I think, doing the games for the Brewers, but good for him. I think he definitely deserves the opportunity. I'm sure he got a little bit of salary bump too, and he's not going anywhere after the NBA leaves Turner. So that's glad to find himself something to do there.
Yep. Any other thoughts before we close out, Christine Lakina?
I think we're good.
Yeah, I mean, Jay Cutler got arrested late last night.
Smoking Jay.
Yeah, for having a possession of a handgun and DUI. Really, dude, really?
Not smart.
For the record, it is his first DUI. So that was surprising for me to learn that it was his first DUI.
I said, not smart.
Yeah, dude, you're in Nashville, honey. You got their Ubers and Lyfts. I guess it's a good they didn't hurt anybody, but still, that was just not very smart at all. But I digress. But on that note, you can follow me at King McKee on the Twitter, XQ's Greg on the IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sydney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG, SCK80. Once again, it's SCK80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Christine, where can the lovely people follow you on social media?
They can follow me at Twitter at @C_Manika_KXRB.
And that bird is gone, finally gone.
It's been gone, Sid.
Where are we gonna have to replace it? Where are you gonna have to replace it?
I don't know.
Well, as Christy figures it out, of course, you can catch Second City Sports every Monday and Friday from 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports of Chicago. Again, Catch Second City Sports every Monday and Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right on Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages.
And don't forget, we'll have during our show on Monday, during the second hour, we'll have our 2024-2025 Chicago Bulls / NBA preview show with our illustrious panel. It's in the works as we speak, so join us for that during our second hour of the show on Monday. Don't forget to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at Ward Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. And give Ward Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. Say thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
All right, Lakina, close us out.
Of course, we want to thank former WGN TV producer, one of our other favorites, Larry Hawley, for joining us today as well. We always want to gamer. We always love having him on, so we're definitely going to have him on soon. And, of course, with all the sports coming up, we got college football, NFL, LCS baseball, WNBA coming up. We'll see if the Liberty can wrap things up. And I think soccer's back as well, so you guys can check that out too. And, of course, some tennis or end-of-the-year tournaments, as well as so much more. So for Sid and Christine, I'm Lakea's Biscuit Sports on Sports in Chicago. We'll see you guys on Monday, and don't drink and drive.
Sell the team. Holla.
Oh, boy.